Welcome back to the channel. My name is Alice Prejean of Knowthyselfandheal.com. So today we're going to be talking about Mercury stationing direct. It's stationing direct on May 14th, 2023 on Mother's Day. And it's stationing direct at 5 degrees and 51 minutes of Taurus. So this is very close to the North Node in Taurus at the moment. Mercury doesn't retrograde to the exact degree of the North Node. The North Node's about 3 degrees, 4 degrees, something like that. So it doesn't quite retrograde all the way back to where the North Node is, but it comes very close. And this particular Mercury retrograde is interesting to be tracking right now because on April 20th, we had a new moon solar eclipse in Aries, and just after the day after the new moon solar eclipse, Mercury went retrograde. And it went retrograde very close to Uranus. It didn't quite reach Uranus, but came very close and retrograded back. And so when we think about Mercury coming to a conjunction with Uranus, this is really highlighting the nervous system and highlighting how the nervous system actually transmits information throughout the body. You could first look at it with your own body, especially because Taurus is the first earth sign. It very much has to do with sensing information with our body consciousness. And so when you have Mercury coming to an almost completing conjunction with Uranus and Taurus, this really does highlight sensing through the nervous system, sensing through our senses, and really intuiting the information that's coming through the senses. And as I said, being that Mercury and Uranus is both correlated to the nervous system, we could have been really noticing our nervous systems and how when we were picking up information during this eclipse season, how were we experiencing that through the nervous system? Our nervous system assists us to actually assess our personal safety, for one, but also stress levels. So we can actually recognize where information was actually enhancing stress or soothing stress, right? And so we could be sensing with the nervous system how different circumstances or situations or people and relationships in our lives are actually activating the nervous system in a way that is either something that is feeling good, something that is feeling like our needs are being met, and situations where we feel like we can say what our needs are, or that we could communicate or perceive our needs as well as others' needs as we share environments with people in whatever experience, whatever genre, whatever environment we're in, right? We're always sharing our consciousness with people. We're investing our consciousness with people. This is Taurus and Scorpio. And so Mercury coming into a conjunction with Uranus highlights how is the information you're getting, how is that actually being perceived by your nervous system, by your immune response? We could even see it as our immune response to that information of the environment, right? And now, Uranus is always going to be about integration. It's really about the integration of more. And in its shadow aspect, it can be experienced as trauma, and it can be experienced as fragmenting consciousness when we are not able to actually be in completion with something, or actually able to integrate the fullness of what is present. right? And this can be experienced as trauma, where we actually don't know how to integrate. And so we disconnect from parts of ourselves, parts of experiences, parts of situations. And so there's this experience of trauma or shock or some kind of experience where we've actually disconnected from parts of our soul. Uranus is the planetary guide to Aquarius. And as we know, Pluto is fresh into Aquarius and has recently gone retrograde in this eclipse season. So Uranus is really the planetary guide to Pluto being in Aquarius. Uranus being in Taurus is really about up-leveling and quickening our sensory experience with that which we desire, with our unique natural self, with our own personal unique vibration. And so Uranus in Taurus, as it's been transiting Taurus since 2018, has been really activating this part of our consciousness and quickening this part of our consciousness that is paying attention to our personal unique vibration. Our frequency is what's happening in how we invest our consciousness in, I put in quotes, the outside world. Is that actually really reflecting what we value? And really ultimately what we sense is our own evolutionary momentum and our own evolutionary purpose. Is the outer world really able to match our own natural self, as well as our own unique brilliance and our own really unique heart essence? So Mercury coming to a close completing conjunction with Uranus during this eclipse season is really, really important, because whatever information that we've been getting in this retrograde is giving us the information on an intuitive level. Because remember that all Mercury retrogrades actually activate the right brain thinking. It activates the intuition and the higher mind. It activates information that we may have been either putting off, putting to the side, disregarding, neglecting, or just didn't see. And as I like to say it actually activates this part of us that can read between the lines, especially read between the lines, meaning we can really sense what's not being said. And we can also just as equally being seen or seeing what is being said, right? So where I would say in Mercury direct, we're really noticing what's being said, we're on a momentum, we're forward motion, right? With the retrograde, it's energy moving inward, right? So it's actually coming back to pull in all the information that we were moving with, momentum with, and actually pulling back and actually allowing the right brain to guide us to information that we received in the forward momentum of Mercury, but that we may have actually either, like I said, been putting off, or we didn't actually see it with full capacity or understanding. So that Mercury retrograde is actually having us recognize the things the information that we came across in the direct motion that we glossed over or that we just didn't even pick up. But now we're picking it up. And now, you know, Mercury retrogrades back to 5 degrees 51 minutes. And as I said, close to the North Node, not quite reaching the North Node, just like it didn't quite reach Uranus, right? So it's traversed between Uranus in Taurus and the North Node in Taurus. Not quite reaching either one, but traversing in between, right? And so, interestingly, as Mercury stations on May 14th, it's in a sextile to Saturn in Pisces, and this is a 60-degree angle between these two planets, right? And then Mercury is also in a closing sextile to Venus in Cancer, also 60 degrees. And this is very interesting because remember that Venus is the ruler or planetary guide to the North Node. And Saturn in Pisces very much has to do with energy. Pisces is kind of the energetics of things. It's the last water sign, and so it actually is quite sensitized to everything in the environment. And so, you know, Saturn will be moving towards Neptune in Pisces. And so there is something ending. I mean, Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, or wheel of consciousness, as I like to call it. So, Mercury in a sextile to that feels to me like we're getting the information that is recognizing where we need to restrict things, where it is that we need to actually apply limitation in a positive way. Saturn asks us to place restrictions so that we can actually experience that which we desire to experience, so that we can have the boundaries that are necessary in order to funnel consciousness in a specific way and according to our values, truly. And so Mercury sextile Saturn in Pisces is likely getting cues. Now, I want to say that Mercury, when it changes direction, it's very poignant to what it's aspecting. So do pay attention to what's coming up in your life. What information are you getting as Mercury stations direct? Because Mercury, being that it's sextile to Saturn in Pisces, is giving us some clues and cues to what Saturn in Pisces is going to be for us personally. To understand what is actually decaying, what is actually dissolving, so that we can actually funnel consciousness where it counts in reference to what we truly value and in reference to valuing ourselves. Because what we value is directly correlated to valuing ourselves. And and what I mean by that is actually the quality of consciousness. I always think of Saturn as quality of consciousness because Pisces is like all of consciousness. But in order to experience anything, we have to actually decide what we want to experience. And Pisces is kind of like, well, here's the, what do you call it? Like a menu or a, oh God, I want to say magazine, but it's not magazine. It's like a catalog. Here's the catalog of what you can experience. And there's all kinds of things. And some of those things can be glamorous, and some of those things can be divine. Some of those things can be ultimately anything and everything you can think of in consciousness that we could possibly experience. It's the ocean of consciousness. But Pisces has to do with deception as well. And so does Mercury. Mercury can very much have to do with deception. And so why deception? Because it has to do with smoke and mirrors. Pisces is correlated to actors and actresses playing roles, where, you could be any archetype. And we know that some of those archetypes could be deceptive, right? The deceiver, right? And so could also be the thief. I say thief because Mercury can be that as well. So, with Saturn there and Mercury in this sextile, I think that really we could be seeing some deception, especially because Taurus opposing Scorpio. I mean, Scorpio can be the things that we hide, secrets. It can be the secrets or things we hide because we think that we need to manipulate things to get what we want, or control things to get what we want, or we're not trusting ourselves to get what we want with integrity. And so we feel we need to control the outer world. And in this case, control information, Mercury and Taurus. So, Mercury in a sextile to Saturn in Pisces can definitely be coming across secrets, deceptions, smoke and mirrors, and really recognizing where we could use to detach from those things. And the reason why I say that is because Mercury will station direct, right? And then it's going to actually come back into conjunction with Uranus, which is going to be the full cycle once Mercury comes out of this post-shadow. And when I say post-shadow, it means that it will have covered the degrees that it retrograded in and then come into completion with Uranus. And likely by then, we will have detached from anything that isn't actually up to par with what we value and the quality of consciousness that we value. And again, as I said, Saturn can definitely be quality of consciousness. And Saturn in Pisces can be really giving the collective consciousness, being Pisces, the opportunity to recognize the heaviness that occurs when we are not in alignment with our valued quality of consciousness, right? Now, Venus, as I said, Mercury's in a sextile to Venus in Cancer. So this is coming into a culmination where we can be looking at our emotional security and how that correlates to our values. And is that how we are valuing our emotional security? Are we really emotionally secure and therefore um, in alignment with like authenticity? Or are we actually not emotionally secure and we are saying things, communicating, withholding communication in a way that is actually aligning with gaining emotional security in ways that are not actually truly expressing emotional security or in a vibration of emotional security. So interestingly, we've got Mercury sextile Saturn, Mercury sextile Venus in Cancer. So this does bring in this Cancerian Capricorn, because Saturn is the planetary ruler of Capricorn, where Pluto has just retrograded. It's going to retrograde back into Capricorn. It's on its way. So this can be very much bringing in this, what work do we have to continue in regards to parenting ourselves and to actually really working from the inside out. Cancer Capricorn is a yin sign. This is about working from the inside out and developing emotional security from within. And so what work do we need to do? What is being exposed where we could see this emotional security needing to be cultivated in alignment with our true natural self and our true core essence, what we really actually value. And we could be looking at ways in which we've been parented or we've experienced authority figures where we learn to gain emotional security in ways that were not true emotional security. And so this gives us the opportunity to actually backtrack and clean those things up, to actually see them. I mean, it's very interesting that the last eclipse on May 5th, the sun was conjunct Uranus. And the moon was opposing the sun, and then just after the eclipse, opposed Uranus from Scorpio. The moon was in Scorpio. So the way that I see this is that the sun was actually really shining the light on what it is that needs to be integrated. And recognize that the more that there is light, the more that we're going to see the toxicity in the environment. The more that we're going to see the dust particles in the environment, right? The more that we're going to see. So the more sunshine that comes in your house, the more you see the dirt, right? And so that's what this eclipse reminds me of, is just that, we've been doing a lot of work with the nodes being in Taurus and Scorpio. And so likely we've been actually gaining more light, which is really positive. However, now that we've been gaining this light, and the more light that we actually gain, the more toxicity we actually see in our own personal world. And so this can actually be really helpful with Mercury having been regressing, retrograding, and actually moving through these degrees of the sky, through our own charts, through our own psyche, where we can see we need to clean up. We need to actually have more discernment, and we need to actually really make sure that there isn't anything in the environment that is actually bringing toxicity into our psyche, into our body consciousness, into, ultimately whatever's been kind of cultivated in the environment, right? I mean, really, the metaphor of our own body ecology is really helpful in this, because this has to do with the psyche as well. The body consciousness is really derived from the psyche. And so ultimately we could see that we're being given opportunities to clean up the psyche, which is going to naturally express through the body as well, and through our own vitality, and therefore our own personal unique light. And remember that Pluto in Aquarius is about cultivating our personal unique brilliance. But we can only do that as in so much that we've actually tended to anything that's been toxic or isn't clean in our own psyche, that we need to actually clean up so that we are clear and we can actually bring more light into the world. And Pluto in Aquarius is all about assisting us to bring more light into the world. Pluto moving through Aquarius for 20 years, it's going to be squaring Scorpio and Taurus for 20 years. And so it's going to be exposing the things that have been hidden in our psyches and the values by which we've been operating that are really not in alignment with our natural self. And it's going to require us to get very intimate with ourselves. And the beauty of that is that the more intimate we are with ourselves, the more intimacy we can have in our lives, the more rich soul connections we can actually have in our lives, through our friendships, through our romantic relationships, through the groups that we are involved in. So this Mercury retrograde is very important. So Mercury will be coming out of shadow phase. Let's see. Mercury will come out of shadow phase on June 1st. And just so you know, there's really some really interesting transits coming. The new moon in Taurus is coming on May 19th. And there's a very interesting transit on May 20th that I'm going to do a video on. So do stay tuned. And I just wanted to prepare us for the next videos that will be coming for the new moon and for that May 20th event. And so I hope this is helpful. If it is, please do like it, share it, comment, subscribe if you like, and do feel free to share your insights or your personal experiences, because it always makes the conversation more rich. And thank you so much for watching and joining me, and I'll see you on the next video.